everyone! Today I'm sewing up another easy and free pattern. It's a comfortable, roomy dress that can be worn for many different occasions. You can play with your fabric choices to maximize comfort and/or feminine flair. I used a checkered woven polyester for this pattern, and I love how it created an almost vintage feel to the dress. This is the Everyday Dress by In the Folds. This dress is great for a lot of reasons. First, it's technically reversible, so you can choose to wear the V at the front or the back of the dress. It also has pockets that everybody loves, and the pattern includes the dimensions to create a quick and easy belt to go with your dress. Best of all, the pattern is free, and you can find it at peppermintmag.com or at the link below. I hope you sew it along with me today. Let's get started. You will need one front piece cut on the fold, one back piece cut on the fold, one front neck facing, one back neck facing, 2 pairs of pockets, and 2 2.5-inch strips of fabric. These will become your belt, and the specific lengths for your size are listed in the pattern. We're going to start by serging all of our shoulder seams separately. Serge the 2 shoulder seams of your front piece and your back piece. Now that our shoulder seams are all serged separately, place your front and back pieces right sides together and clip your shoulder seams. Sew each side with a 1/2-inch seam allowance and then press the seams open. Place your front and back facings right sides together and clip the shoulder seams. Sew with a 1/2-inch seam allowance and press the seams open. Now that my facings are sewn together and the seams are pressed flat and open on the wrong side, go ahead and finish all the outer layers of the facing using your serger or a zigzag stitch. Now place your finished facing right sides together with your neckline, matching shoulder seams, the back neckline, and especially the point of the V at the front of your dress. And go ahead and pin in place. Sew your facing to your neckline with a 3/8-inch seam allowance. Now my facing is sewn to the neckline, and I'm going to trim the seam allowance. Now we've reduced some of the bulk in that neckline. Now we're going to take sharp, small scissors and clip into the V of our stitching to our stitching line, but not through the stitching, so that when we turn the facing to the inside, we get a nice, clean V shape. And then we're going to understitch. So making sure we catch this seam, turn the facing, and sew about 1/8 of an inch away from our original stitching line so that our facing always stays nicely to the inside of the garment. So go ahead and understitch all the way around your neckline, the entire neckline. I've gone ahead and turned the entire facing to the inside of the garment and given it all a really good press. And now we're going to pin the facing to the inside, all along the outer serged edges, and then edge stitch your facing close to the serged edges all the way around. And now we have a nice finished neckline with some pretty defined wide top stitching all along the outside. Now it's time to start working on our pockets. Take each of your pockets to your serger, or you can zigzag on your regular machine, and finish all of the outer curved edges separately. Now place your pockets right sides together with the front of the dress, according to the pocket notches noted on your pattern piece. Pin or clip the sides of your pockets to your dress, and sew with a 1/4-inch seam allowance. Repeat the same steps for your remaining set of pocket pieces with your back dress piece. Now we're going to take the entire dress to the serger, or doing a zigzag stitch on your regular machine, finish the entire outer edge of the dress, from the hem at the bottom all the way around each sleeve, making sure that your pocket stays to the inside so that we're serging the outer pocket seam as well. Right now at the very bottom of your dress, you have a diagonal corner. You can serge this in the process if you wish. Just make sure you're not trimming any material off of this diagonal edge. Now that the outer edges of our entire garment are completely finished, flip your pocket to the outside, and we're going to understitch the pocket just as we did for the neckline facing, sewing the pocket itself to its seam about 1/8 of an inch away from the original stitching. Do this for all 4 pockets. Now we're going to take our entire dress to the ironing board and press some memory creases. First, you can press both of your sleeve hems to the wrong side by 2 inches and give that a good press. And do that for both sleeves. And then fold the bottom hem of your dress for your front and your back by 2 inches and give that a good press for front and back. And we're also going to do the same for the bottom edges of our dress that flare out just under each pocket. Fold those 4 corners of your dress, 2 for front and back, to the wrong side, 2 inches, give all of those a good press. These creases will help us in the hemming as we move forward. Place your front and back dress pieces right sides together, and we're going to start working on forming the bottom hem. On your pattern piece, you have dots indicating where to stop your stitching. I've marked that point on my fabric with a pin, and I'm going to continue pinning from this point to the pocket area, stopping my stitching 1 inch above the bottom of my pocket. Stitching into this pocket area will help reinforce the strength of the pocket. Pin this section together, making sure that front and back pieces are perfectly aligned. And then take it to your sewing machine and begin stitching at the pocket area with a 3/8 inch seam allowance, stitching in a straight line all the way to where you've marked that dot on your pattern piece. That seam allowance will grow larger from the 3/8 to about 2 inches. So if it helps, you can draw a straight line with a fabric marker or chalk to make sure that your transition is even and straight all the way between the 2 points. And remember to do this for both sides of your dress. Here is the diagonal corner at the very bottom of my dress, and here is my bottom hem. We're going to sew this diagonal corner right sides together to create a mitered corner. So go ahead and fold it right sides together and pin, and we're going to sew it with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Do this for all 4 corners of the dress. Now that I've sewn those edges, I'm going to trim the seam and clip this corner and do that for each of them before turning the hem right side out. Now the bottom of your hem will look like this, with the corners nicely finished and encased. We're going to edge stitch along the serged edges, just as we did for the neckline, but before we do that, we're going to make a mark on our fabric 2 3/4 inches above our hem split, and then draw a line from the corner of our hem to the dot. This will serve as our stitching guide for this portion of the hem. Do this for both hem split areas. Now we can go to our sewing machines and edge stitch the inside of the dress along the serged edges of the hem, following our stitching guides once we get to the hem split areas. And I'll go ahead and pin everything in place first. And then sew. And then I'm going to pin the upper part of my dress from the top of my pocket to the end of my sleeve, starting my stitching again 1 inch below the top of the pocket, pinning and sewing with a 3/8 inch seam allowance from my chalk marking to the end of my sleeve. Do this for both sides. And pin each set of pockets together, stitching with a 3/8 inch seam allowance, starting at the 3/8 inch seam allowance of the dress, continuing with the same seam allowance until you're back at your 3/8 inch marking at the end. Do this for both sets of pockets. Now fold your sleeve hems to the inside along the crease we made earlier. Pin in place along the serged edges. Do this for both sleeves, and then edge stitch close to each serged edge, all the way around. Now that our dress is completely done, the only thing we have left to do is create our sash belt. Place both of your long strips right sides together, pin or clip along both long edges. Sew both edges with a 3/8 inch seam allowance, leaving your short edges open on either side for now so that we could turn it right side out later. Now that it's all stitched on both long edges, I'm going to turn it right side out using a safety pin. Now that it's right side out, turn in your raw edges to the inside by 3/8 of an inch on both sides and give the entire belt a really good press. Now I've pressed my entire belt nice and flat, making sure that the short edges are nice and tucked on the inside. And now we're going to edge stitch the entire belt on all sides about 1/4 of an inch away from the edges, making sure to seal these short edges shut. And then you're all done with your dress. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you check out my other sew along videos for more great inspiration for your wardrobe. I'll see you in the next video.